Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. If you are a cast member on this show or any of the other shows that I react to, don't use what I'm saying as a replacement for a proper in-person assessment, of course. Let's watch.
Remove the
shoot.
cataract Band-Aids, so they'll see me again in 3 weeks.
I feel like I owe you an apology, and
Why?
the other night, Liz blew up at me in front of you, and then it just snowballed. I was just looking at you going, I wanted to tell you this is how she is.
Okay, so we're hearing a different story. Of course we would in any situation. He's saying that Liz blew up at him. Okay, let's listen to some more of this.
The fact that she blew up in front of you guys, it just really hurt my feelings.
I just thought she was gonna stop and it wouldn't go on. I was really just hoping and praying she would stop.
All right, interesting. Well, it's his family member, so we have to take that into account with any sort of bias. So there's that. Could I imagine Liz flying off the handle and becoming hostile in a perseverating way? Yeah, I can actually. In a way that I actually would say Liz is responsible for, that she should try to rein in. You know, I've talked about how in their conflicts, how each of them can be doing things differently to improve things. My observation in terms of the edit thus far from my memory after watching this couple for, when did Liz enter maybe 4 years ago? I would imagine that if I were to assess a couple like this, I would conclude that her reactivity, although excessive at times, is provoked by him. That he starts it, then she gets wound up and goes too far with things. So if we go with that, which we can't know, what might have happened was Riley was upset or was commenting that it was too hot for her. He took it personally and went on the attack, or was mean or insecure or something. And Liz tried to intervene on Riley's behalf, which you would hope would happen. And then he was hurtful, because we've seen that before, where he'll be so aggressive and hostile, you're being ridiculous, or you're being like a child, or something like that. That triggered her. She got wound up, and then she couldn't stop herself. And he will look calm. And you could imagine him also thinking, oh, look at this. Like, she's making a fool out of herself in front of my family, which vindicates me. It's just a guess. Of course, it's highly biased against him. It's also possible that she flew off the handle off a little transgression that he had, and that if we knew this couple better, then we would say, oh, no, she was 90%. But we've never seen that on camera. Every time, because I always just think about their engagement party. She's in, I believe, a wedding dress, and he goes after her because a guest at their engagement party was maybe intoxicated, but at the very least was conflictual, and it was a public fight, and apparently this other woman was gay, and he became jealous in this very strange way of, like, while we were broken up, after one of the times I broke up with you, Liz, you had this individual as an employee, and she's gay, and she was upset at you. Is this like a lover spat? And therefore, tell me the real story, what's going on between you and her. And the thing is even if Liz had had a relationship with that woman while they were broken up, then that's okay. You broke up with her, Ed. She can date whoever she wants to date. But to think that, to draw that conclusion, and then to be adamant about it, in the post incident on camera, we see him saying, just be straight with me. You got to be straight with me. I know what happened. And she just lost it, which I think a lot of people would. I think she has a hard time dealing with it. But she stays in the relationship. So she walks off. She walks away from the camera. She just starts walking through, the suburbs trying to get home. She takes off her ring. She throws it in the bushes. If you just take that, you would say, wow, that's excessive, or that's interesting behavior. I understand it. I think she wanted to get away from the cameras as well, and just was I don't fault her for that, but it is kind of particular, right? Other people would just say, I'm going home, and just do it in a more controlled manner of getting in the car and going home or something, or staying there and fighting or whatever, And so can we imagine that she would have a particular reaction? Plus, after the amount of times that she's been through this, and her daughter is potentially being discounted, and her own traumas maybe of being discounted when she was young. I don't know. I'm speculating a lot, but we're hearing, at the very least, a little snippet of, I'd be curious what this family member of Ed would have to say if we could hear the full story. Would she say, well, was Ed being a jerk? Yeah. But Liz was just going on, and it's just like there was no reining her in, and I don't know what was going on. Again, is that because Liz is a jerk face, or is that because she's just had enough of the harm?
The other day, Liz was just coming unglued in front of my sister, my nephew, and her daughter because I made Riley's taco pasta too spicy. Yes, I made a mistake, but that's not the issue. The problems that Liz is escalating such a dumb fight to the point where I don't want to be around this anymore.
That was edited. You can tell that it was Frankensteined a little bit because there was some tone changes. When they edit away from him, they take bits and pieces of things that had been said and paste, and maybe they just edit out ums and whatnot, but we just don't know what was happening there. But at the very least, in the edit, what he's saying is, it started because I made Riley's pasta too hot. Okay, I made a mistake. But then she just escalated things. Okay, so according to that narrative, we're led to believe that he made the pasta too hot, he admitted the mistake, and then Liz just decided to yell at him and escalate and make things really uncomfortable for everyone. That doesn't seem likely. There's a missing portion there that I speculated earlier, that he took it personally, he was pushing back, or she's just being a baby. That was a problem for her. She had heard that many times. She had, and maybe, I'm sure some of you are thinking this, that Liz appears to have traumas that appear to result in her not valuing herself. My dogs are barking. That she doesn't feel like she deserves to be treated well. And so for people like that, in therapy, sometimes it's a useful question. And I guess personally, you can think about this yourself, is to ask yourself, if you had a child or a friend or a loved one who was being treated the way you were being treated, what would you tell that person? A lot of times, like if with Liz, we could say, if Riley grew up to have a partner like Ed, the way Ed treats you, let's say Riley had a husband or a boyfriend or fiance that was treating Riley this way, what would you say to Riley, or what would you hope for with Riley? There's a possibility that Liz would say, oh, I would tell Riley she deserves better and she shouldn't put up with that stuff and she should leave him. But when it comes to the self, because they have a working model of the self that they learned from their experiences growing up, that they don't matter and that they deserve this and that they're nothing, or they don't really have a connection with their own needs and their own reactivity, or they don't value it, or they question it or something, or they've been abused and gaslit to not really even understand or have confidence in their own take on things, that when it comes to themselves, they don't have any self-preservation. And so there's a possibility that as she's watching Riley being mistreated, maybe in a minor way compared to the way she's been mistreated by Ed, then that actually unleashed the dragon that has been waiting to come out because of all the crap that she's been through with that. I don't know. It's just a question. So we would imagine that something like that happened. She sticks up for Riley. Then we imagine he would have been in his way, infantilizing and belittling and hurtful, but in a calm way, not in a way that was very loud and noticeable, because that's what he does. He gets quiet and hostile and very, abusive at times. Like the engagement party, when they were talking, he was quiet, but the hostility and the toxicity of what he was doing was severe. And then that was just like, it's happening and you're doing it again and you're doing it and maybe he even was doing it because he felt emboldened because his family was around, which is just another question as to why they moved to Arkansas anyway. Is it unconsciously or consciously an effort for him to get allies or something? I don't know. But we can imagine that happening. And then we imagine that she was very noticeable in her way, you know, when they were making the food in the kitchen. I talked about how she would become a little unrelenting. We understand why, but if she's going to do something to help the situation, addressing that would help, at least on her side. He started it, and it looks like that might have happened again. You know, I'm just speculating on speculations.
All right, just chiming in here. The rest of this episode will just be for members of the YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the rest of this, become a member by clicking the join button below. When you do that, you're really supporting our very small, literal mom and pop business. We're a very small business and really depend on members and patrons. And, you know, patrons and members, that's the core of our existence. So you can do that, and that would be great. Otherwise, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.